That's how we own it.
What's good, family? It's your girl, Tamika D, Mallory.
And it's your boy, Mysonne, the General.
And we are your host of Street Politicians, the place where the streets and politics meet. What's going on, my son Lennon? How you doing today? A new city.
I am blessed and highly favored.
New city. We've moved on from LA to New York to now we're in where we at?
We're in NOLA.
NOLA.
Yes. Shout out to NOLA. Shout out to the Essence Fest. You know, black people. Bunch of black people just out here doing what they do, man. So it's always good.
Yeah, today starts the concerts and the convention center has opened. And for the next few days, people will be actively being black, learning about our culture, eating food that we like, buying products, supporting black businesses, listening to health conversations, listening to social justice conversations. There's a panel on voting rights, seeing celebrities, all that. It all happens at the Essence Music Festival, or the Essence Festival is now what they call it. They drop music because it's in a whole experience.
It's a whole experience. It ain't just no music no more.
And going to the concerts at night, which is a highlight this year. I think Janet Jackson is coming back. And I know they're gonna have Mary, because that's if you don't have Mary at Essence Fest, like, what are you doing? And I think the other thing that happens is that there is a very intentional celebration of black women at the Essence Fest. Right? Even black men.
Essence Magazine's pretty much this celebration and an exaltation of black women.
Well, I think I was telling you that a man told me, he said, yeah, he was on the plane. I said, you working this weekend? He said, oh yeah, no, I was working, but I'm not anymore. He said, but I'm gonna work all right, because I'm gonna get me 1, 2, 3 women down here at the Essence Fest. I said, well, come on.
Then. He got to go. A man with a plan, man. It's a man with a plan.
3, not 2, not 1, 3. So
3.
I get it. And I bet you there's 3 that want to be with him too.
Listen, man. Like I said, man, a man with a plan is a man that's gonna get what he can.
Whatever.
So, my mother passed away, and in the next week, I've been just going over getting this tattoo of her face. And I'm trying to find like a really good tattoo artist. I want to put this tattoo on my arm, and underneath it say Trisha's son in remembrance. But I also want to put my grandmother's, because my grandmother passed away when I was locked up, and I always wanted to do it. So those are pretty much the 2 most influential people in my life, who nurtured me and gave me levels of confidence and things that I don't think I would have without them. So I've been thinking about that the last couple of weeks. I wanted to do it at first, when she first passed, but I thought it was too emotional. It's too emotional a time for me. So that's what I'm working on. I don't know why, but it's something that I want to do. And I don't do, I got a couple of tattoos. I'm not like a tattoo person. So it's not like a normal thing, but these is tattoos that I really want to, just really make sure that they're done right.
You're not a tattoo person, but you got a full, whole thing across the top of your chest.
I got, in comparison, I got 4 tattoos.
Yeah, right? But they're big. I'm not a tattoo person. I have one thing, which is my son's name right here. You had something stretched from one side of your chest to the other.
Originally I wanted to make my body into a general's uniform, right? So what you're talking about is, this is the collar that goes around the general's uniform. If you look on the general's uniform, you'll see these medals on the top of each side. And then I have the seal of the general on each soldier. On each shoulder. So I was gonna put the badge with all of the purple hearts and all those things. I was gonna literally make it into a uniform, but I realized I wasn't really a tattoo person at that time. I got that's when I realized it. And I was like, I don't really want to just be getting tattoos and tattoo my whole body up. So I stopped, but
I'm so glad something stopped you from doing that.
yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people who have hundreds of tattoos. Like I got friends, they got 50 and 30 and 40 and hundreds of tattoos. So I'm not really a tattoo person, but when it has some level of value, of significance to me, I want to see my mother's face when I look down. I want to see my grandmother's face on right here on my forearm. So those are things that, I mean, it might, it's gonna be a little bit of pain,
So
but
you an old man. You an old man now.
I know old man.
It's different when you become an old man.
When
So
the older you get, the harder your body gets. So you get
nah,
more
the older
accustomed to pain.
you can't take certain things anymore because
You get more accustomed to pain.
I was sitting on a plane. Go ahead. I'm listening to you. Go
You know what I'm
ahead.
saying? I've dealt with levels of pain and things that I thought I never could survive, and I've survived them. So it ain't really that much different.
Well, I was sitting on the plane yesterday and out of nowhere, my knees just started hurting. And I'm like, I'm sitting down. I'm not even walking. Like, what is wrong with my knees? That's just what happens when you get to be over 40. So you an old man now. I don't know, but I think it's beautiful. I think you picked the right pictures. Make sure you get, exactly what you're looking for. And to your point, you need a good tattoo artist, which is not easy to find because everybody thinks they the best and they great. And then their work looks like stuff just jumbled together. So I hope you find the right person. You should actually put a call out on the gram to find a tattoo artist who can recreate what you're looking for.
I mean, I've seen a couple. So, and a couple of my friends have tattoos that I've seen done, and I like the quality and the detail of it. So, I'm gonna reach out to them and try to get those connections.
Is it expensive?
I mean, it depends. It depends on who does it. Tattoos, they range in prices. Depends on who does it. Sometimes the other couple of tattoos I got, I actually never paid for a tattoo. Right? I had tattoo artists that were dope that wanted, because I had a level of a platform and celebrity that they wanted people to see the art that they did on me. So like, just let people know I did it, take a picture, so it depends. It all depends.
I saw one guy. Did you see the guy who tattooed cockroaches all over his chest?
Yeah, stupid shit ever.
Like, what? He must have been high. He was
extremely high. Like,
he was smoking.
Made no sense.
None whatsoever. So let's get into the news stories. We have a pretty deep interview that we're doing today with Brittney Griner's childhood friend, who was like her sister. They actually call one another sisters, and she's like one of the closest people outside of Sherelle, Brittney's wife. And so she's coming on, and we want to give her a lot of time because the sister, she's got a lot to say. And so I want to get into these news stories quickly. There's two things that happen. We'll get two stories from the national news and one from Instagram news. The two stories, unfortunately, and we were really, all of the folks who work with us, Precious, who helps us to kind of think through, what our rundown of the show will be. And certainly I was doing it, trying to find like, what are some positive things that have made the press this week, things that we want to talk about. And it's like, you can't ignore these stories that keep coming out about Black men being killed by the police and, or being harmed significantly by the police. And it's sad because it's like you feel like it kind of dies down and then we are always back in the situation. And it seems like these situations get worse and worse and worse because George Floyd, we all know, was one of the worst that we've actually seen with our eyes. Now you have Jayland Walker, who's in Akron, Ohio, where, by the way, my family lives there. Many members of my family are in Akron. And I don't even have the capacity to sit and read the details of what the police say. I don't know. And I'm sure others have it posted, and I'm going to have to understand it at some point. But to date, what I do know is 60 shots were fired at Jayland Walker that hit him in his face and all over his body. That's what I know. And the reason why I said I don't know the story is because, I know enough. I'm able to pick up in enough places if he was shooting at somebody, or if he had robbed a bank and had an old lady, or excuse me, an elderly woman held hostage, or if he had a child dangling over a bridge. Like, I know I would have seen that. I would have seen that. I'm like 100% sure, and I could be wrong. You might know, and somebody else may know, but I'm pretty sure he did not do anything that called for 60 shots that hit that boy all over his face, his face and his body, mutilated him. No. Now, did you hear?
There's never a justification for that. You know what I'm saying? Especially when there's no weapon found, right? Especially when you're running from the police. And yet we always try to find people that want to justify it and say, well, I need to know the other part of the story, and I need to know what happened before this happened. That's always well, what happened before this? Y'all only showing us this piece of the thing, and it's always the same sad song, and it ultimately ends in the death or the severe injury of one of our people, man. So my prayers go out to them. Hopefully he gets justice. Hopefully those officers are brought to justice. I know what they're on unpaid leave right now or paid.
They're on administrative leave.
Administrative leave
probably means probably being that paid. They're being paid. Yep. Which probably
same old tune, man.
And so now the city has canceled some of their festivals and other things that are supposed to, things that they do in the summer in Akron and all over the country. They've had to cancel those occasions because they are concerned about uprisings. And I'm just so tired of it. Then, we learned last week while we were interviewing Ben Crump, and now I've actually talked to him about it, Randy Cox in Connecticut. Basically, the police did the same thing to him that they did to Freddie Gray. They put him in the car without strapping him in with his seatbelt, with his hands behind his back. And basically he broke, I think they say he broke his neck, but certainly he's paralyzed from his neck down for the rest of his life. There's video footage of the officers asking him, hey, what's going on with you? What's happening? He's like, I can't feel my body. I can't feel my legs. I can't feel. And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll just kind of like sit up. You'll be okay. But they took him on, what's that, the joy ride or the rough ride, or what y'all call that?
Rough ride. They call it a rough ride.
A rough ride. And so now this man, is paralyzed. And again, I don't know. Because I just, between us traveling, we've been dealing with Brittney Griner. We've been engaged in another thing that we can't talk about right now. People don't, I saw somebody on the internet yesterday, oh, you look cute. Because, I posted a picture of me at the BET Awards. And they said, oh, you look cute. But do you even do activism anymore? Or are you a socialite now? Are you trying to be a socialite? I'm like, if people knew, because last week was a tough week. Like, I was busting my behind before the BET Awards, the next day afterwards, working on stuff, planning a prayer vigil for Brittney Griner, handling proposals for other big things that we have that we're working on. It's just so much, and people just don't know. And I think that folks believe that if they don't see you sitting there on your computer or look like you're crying and beat down, they don't believe that anything is happening, but we actually have so much. So with everything, with me researching Griner, reading up on Russian laws, talking to lawyers about what they think and how we should approach getting in this fight, calling Sheila Jackson Lee, the congresswoman from Texas, doing all of that, I didn't feel like reading the streets of more Black men killed, but I looked enough, not seeing them say, oh, Randy Cox drove his car into a senior citizen center and therefore they nabbed him and this happened. It's not there.
I don't believe it's there either. I very rarely see it. Sometimes there's justification, but for the most part, I think that police have decided that their emotions and how they feel about situations supersede justice. And we see it often enough. And the fact that they're able to say, oh, I felt this was happening, or oh, I was scared, or this and that, and I didn't know, and those things are defenses, it means that it's going to continue to happen.
Right.
So until we have something, a system set in place that makes you accountable, fully accountable for when you do things that are completely wrong, when people lose their lives and people are paralyzed, then we're going to keep seeing the same things.
Yeah, it's got to be a better way. It does. And we say that all the time. And I don't think that we're giving it today the full attention, but you know that over the coming days, we will. We'll have more to say. And of course, we'll follow the lead of those people who are on the ground in Akron, Ohio, and in Connecticut, leaders. I know Scott Esdale is in Connecticut, and he's president of the New Haven, I think, chapter, maybe it's not New Haven, I might be wrong, of the NAACP, and also the regional regional leader, I forget the exact titles, but he has a lot of influence there in Connecticut, and we're going to take everyone's lead. And, we'll have more to say to break down the details, but I'm like trauma whipped. I really am. I'm trauma whipped. Like, I feel like there's just so many cases, so much that's happening that people don't, again, you don't think about the totality. And that's with everyone's work. We don't always think of the totality of what the government is dealing with, or what, different individuals, they have a lot to deal with every day. And, just sitting thinking about Stanley Davis III. Stanley Davis III, 13-year-old boy, deserves justice. The officer who killed him still has a job, still hasn't been fired. In Boynton Beach, Florida, he was killed by a rogue officer with a rap sheet of times, including 2 other times where he performed high-speed chases, and another child and another individual were killed, right? And he still has a job. So that is something that requires our work and attention. I got a text message today from Tanisha Chappelle's family asking, can Until Freedom be there for the anniversary of their sister being killed basically by police, by jail officials, by the COs not giving her medical attention, and who even knows how she got sick. And that's in where they live in Kentucky, but it happened in Indiana. There's just too much trauma. It just is. And, I hope people are mentally taking care of themselves and doing whatever they can to kind of separate from the trauma at times, but not to separate so much that we're not fighting, because we have an obligation to fight. And speaking of obligation, brings me to, I said we would do our national news story and then our Instagram news story. Last week, a big thing broke out that has been going on all week on whether or not the father of one child in a house with 3 other children was wrong for bringing McDonald's only to his child and not the other kids in the house. It was a whole thing, was he wrong? And what was really probably disturbing, I know it was disturbing to me, and again, I didn't even watch the video, but I heard enough about what was being stated that I know that what took place was not appropriate for a mother to go online and basically degrade the man, throw the food on the ground, put it on video, and send it out to the world. That to me is completely inappropriate, and there's no excuse for it, none. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, but I get that she's frustrated. It doesn't matter. It's wrong. It should not happen. We got enough issues with Black men even showing up to be with their children, and the barriers in that sometimes are created by the world, and then also sometimes by mothers, where they are putting all of these different obstacles in the way for fathers to be able to see their children. So the fact that the father even showed up, right, is even there, is important. And I have to say that. I want to make sure I say that from the beginning. But I was going to weigh in as my thought of the day on the specific question of whether or not a man should bring, or if he is obligated to bring food to all the children in a house when he comes to feed his own. And I think he should. I think my, if I had to give my vote, because it certainly is a split conversation. I happened to be on the phone with my sister and my god sister, and they were arguing back and forth about who's right and who's wrong. But I do believe that if you, especially because we later learned that, and I did see this video, it popped up on my feed, where the same mother was talking about, you know, how this man had been there with her children in the past, that these 3 children are her first children that he knew when he met her, and he had been involved in taking care of those kids and doing things for them and feeding them and whatnot in the past. And I think that my perspective is that when we use the use of the word, and I saw people saying, oh, he doesn't have an obligation. I think that's one of the problems with our society, is that we don't feel obligated. We don't feel obligated when a woman is being beat down on the street by a man, or, you know, being robbed or whatever, and we're just standing there watching. We don't feel obligated when police are, you know, arresting somebody. We don't feel obligated to stand by and film what's going on. And we certainly, and those situations are people you don't know, but you certainly should feel obligated to do what you can for the children who are the siblings of your child. And it is not to say buy them all fancy things or give them a bunch of stuff, but in the Black family, in the Black community, it has always been very clear that when you show up with food, you don't come to a house to feed, you don't come to the house with food just for yourself and not make sure that everyone else eats. And I think as a man, as a father, I personally believe that if you come to bring food for your child, you should bring it for all, or you should take your child out of the house, take them on a little trip to McDonald's, do what you're going to do, and bring your child back. But never let your child eat what other children are not.
And I pretty much, I don't have any real disagreement with what you're saying, because I would never do it. Me personally, I would never do it. But my only issue with the conversation was the word obligation, right? And the word obligation is something, it's difficult for a lot of people, right? Because a lot of men be like, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not obligated. It's like you helping somebody. It's like if I have enough money to help my friend, right? People, your friend will call you, right? And feel obligated. Yo, you got money. Why you don't give me to pay my rent? You know, you my friend, you got money. You should be able to give it to me. You should make sure I'm good. You should make sure I'm doing this. It's a level of entitlement, right? The word obligation means that somebody else is entitled to something that you have, right? And in my opinion, if I didn't make these children, right, you're not entitled to anything from me, right? What I do for those children is out the kindness of my heart, because I'm a man of a certain caliber. And the reality is every man is not of that caliber. And if you decide that you're dealing with men that are not of that caliber and you have expectations of them that is beyond the caliber of that individual, whose fault is that at that point, right? Whose fault is that? There's a bunch of friends, like I see a bunch of famous people, rich people all the time talk about how their family feel like they obligated to pay their rent. That because I'm rich, I'm supposed to give you money because you know I have it. Because if I just call you every week for $500 because you're my friend and we're family and I want to make sure you're good, I should give it to you? Am I obligated to do that? Is there an expectation for me to do that, right? So this is what I'm trying to say. In this situation, this man knowingly made one child. Knowingly, he made this child and said, okay, this is what my obligation is. I'm obligated to make sure that this child is good, right? It's just like a mother say, like the argument is, well, women sue a man that made a child and say, yo, you should be paying all my bills. No, my obligation is to my child. Like when the relationship dissipates and is over, right? It dissolves or whatever. I might have been doing things within that relationship that I felt obligated within that relationship, right? I might have done things for those kids and you because that was my obligation to that relationship. There are men who feel when they're no longer in that relationship, they're no longer obligated to the things that they would do in that relationship. Only thing they're obligated is to things that are completely theirs. And that man felt like, this is my child. Now, I wouldn't do that. If I'm bringing food to a child, it's cool. But the word obligation to me is a false narrative. It's not a reality.
Yeah,
You know, because
and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the only way our communities can ever become whole is the use of the word obligation.
so do you feel
And
like you feel like you
I feel obligated. I
You
feel
feel, no, I'm not
absolutely
talking, so
obligated.
listen to me. Do you feel that you break up with a man, he has kids. Those kids don't have anything. They
What do you mean they don't have-
I
we
mean,
don't-
okay, well, listen, you
don't
used to
know
take
that.
care of those kids. You used to give these kids a weekly allowance. When you was in a relationship with that man, you gave him a weekly allowance. When that relationship ends, are you still obligated to give those kids a weekly allowance?
So I want this to be very clear, because I think what we do, all of us, is that we start to add a lot of elements to conversations that actually are not about the conversation. The conversation is very specific. We add a lot of things to conversations that is actually not what we're talking about.
Okay.
Conversation is not about allowance. We're not talking about Christmas. We're not talking about friends. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about food and what food means, right? Food means love. Food means nourishment, right? And especially if you at one point lived or you were a constant person in children's lives, you do not feed one without feeding the others. That is a fundamental thing. I'm not talking about whether or not you should have to give. No, you can give your child allowance, and you may not be able to or even want to give the rest of the people allowance. And I noticed also when you were speaking, you were like, whose fault is that? Because she, we're not talking about she. Remove her from the
But
situation.
you can't remove her when she's the one with the issue.
But we've already, no, but we,
because there's some women who don't believe that he's obligated.
But
there are women who
we're
don't.
We're not talking about women. We're talking about your opinion and mine.
And
we're not talking about, I'm not talking about.
My opinion and your opinion has to be based on the totality of a situation.
No, but
right? Because if we just give our opinion based on us as an individual and we're not giving it from perspectives that are different than ours, or understanding other people's perspectives so you can bring into space so that the conversation can be in full, it's not really a conversation.
No, but what I'm saying to you is that I'm not here to try to analyze, right? That she did this and she said this and she said that. I'm here to narrow down to one point. Should a man or a woman who has been involved in the lives of children, which, by the way, you also said, I had a child, I made a child with you. But that's a problem that we get ourselves into as human beings, right? Is that we go have children, and particularly our brothers. Our brothers get themselves in situations when the shit is cool and it's good and it's popping, and have babies with people who already have babies. So when you meet a woman and she has children that are from a previous relationship or previous relationships, you now are putting yourself in a situation where you're having a child that is a sibling, not just your child. That is, it's very similar to what we want to see people do for Brittney Griner, what we want to see people do for Breonna Taylor. We're asking people to step out of their comfort zone, to be engaged with the community. And when your child is a sibling in a community, other kids is a community, you do not feed. I'm not talking about buying sneakers. I'm not talking about taking them on every vacation, although I think you should if you was doing it before, if you can afford it. I'm talking about bringing food. It's in every Black household, right? I know with in my family, people got children by other folks, but they married to my grandparents. They're married in, and they bring other children with them. Those ain't my grandparents' grandchildren. Those are my mom and dad or my aunts and uncles' grandchildren. But when those children are around, they do for them all. They feed them all. You don't feed one without feeding others. That's just, or remove your child. You take your child, say, I'm picking my child up from 4 to 6 on Thursday. We going to McDonald's. You don't got to say that. You don't even got to say what you're doing. You don't tell nobody. That's y'all thing. And you teach your child while you out. Hey, and by the way, guess what? Me, like you said, you and I are different. Me and my child going to McDonald's, when we leave, you gonna get you another little 20 piece and take it home to your brothers and sisters. Yeah. If you can.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm trying to explain to you is that is a choice, Tamika, right? That is a choice that we've made based on our upbringing, based on how we feel about things, right? But the word obligation means entitlement, right? Obligated means that somebody else is entitled. If I'm obligated to do something to you, that means you're entitled for it to happen.
But my son, I think that's the problem with the whole conversation, right? Because what I'm trying to do is elevate the conversation to whether we are obligated to our people. And if we are obligated to our children, and if we are obligated to the mental capacity and what we as adults, when we make decisions, we hurt or help, we hurt or heal, we cause confusion, and all of us are guilty of it in one way or the other by things that we do. That's life. We know it. You know what I'm saying? If you could work too much, like my child was harmed because I was working all the time and I wasn't able to give him some of the things that he needed as a kid growing up. So we hurt and we heal, right? I'm saying that we do have an obligation. The obligation is not about the entitlement piece, the way you're speaking of it, because I understand what you're saying. Like you think you're entitled, like I'm supposed to just do? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying the obligation as a man, that I want my child to be in a healthy environment with other children that feel loved. That's because this is a community. And that is the obligation. So I'm not, and I guess you said, you made the point, which I agree with, that I'm trying to remove the convo from the context of a dialogue that many people are having. And you're sitting in the middle of the dialogue, understanding that there are people like, oh, he's supposed to, and you're saying he's not supposed to. I'm asking us as men and our men, raise the level of standard to that. And make it an obligation, right? I saw on Fathers Alive in the Hood, their Instagram page, they said something that I thought was powerful. And that was, if you can't bring McDonald's, bring groceries, but feed every child. We feed every child. So that's my opinion. That's my thought.
No, and I agree. I just want, just based on the whole situation, the context of it, I just want it to be a well-rounded, thought-out situation, because in certain situations, people will use this as some level of entitlement and use the word obligation. And I realize that I'm only obligated to do what I know is right? I'm only obligated to do what I feel is the right thing to do, or what I'm bound to do, right? If I make children, I'm obligated to take care of those children. If I decide that it's another kid down the block that I want to take care for, and I've decided to do it, then that's things
wrong.
But I hear what you're saying, but
I'm saying it's wrong because you're saying there's another child down the block, and I know why you're doing that, because your instincts are telling you to separate that child far enough down the block. But we're not talking about a kid down the block. We're talking about sitting right there, sleeping right next to. And that you see what I'm saying? That's what makes the difference. And a child that at one point you was around. You fed them. You was there with them. We're not talking about down the block. You are not obligated to down the block, but you damn sure are obligated to make sure your child grows up in an environment and has an attitude of service, of sharing.
But do you realize nobody knows what that man is dealing with. That man might be in a new relationship with a woman that got 3 kids, right? That he got to take care.
But my son, I already told you, take your child out the door to McDonald's. That's it. There's 2 scenarios that can work. You don't have to do nothing for those kids. even though I feel that's wrong. And I still feel when the child comes back from McDonald's, he ought to have 2 or 3 little
But
things.
in that situation, that man asked him to bring my kid. Well, bring him out here then.
Okay.
Bring him out here so I can feed him out here.
But and again, I'm not going to, because I think, again, the way that she handled it is wrong from start to finish. So I'm not, see what I'm saying? You see how I'm offering.
But I get it. And I'm saying,
as a woman,
but
I'm
I don't,
offering
that's what I'm
that
trying to
shit
tell you. I think in the situation, him just bringing, she was triggered by him just bringing food to his
and that's
children.
what I'm saying. It was the fact that he brought the food, and then it becomes, oh, bring my child outside. No. Don't even do it. Thursday from 4, my child calls me up and said, oh, daddy, I want some McDonald's. Thursday, 4 to 6, I'm gonna pick him up. We going to McDonald's. Now, when we at McDonald's, we having a conversation. Hey, I'm making sure you get your McDonald's today, your brothers and sisters. You make sure, take them this, I'm saying what I would do, chicken nuggets or whatever. Or what you do.
But if
right?
you're gonna do that, you don't even got to do that.
Okay, but wait. No, but you
bring food over there. If you just bringing food,
you could
bring it for everybody.
You could, but you also could say, do not be going home, trying to throw it in their face. Depending on what type of child you have, sometimes you got to talk to them about being humble. Let me just put it in that context. You got to talk to them about humble. You ain't got to discuss everything and do not be going there. But again, as a man, you are setting a tone. You're being a leader. You're teaching your child how to behave, how to be in community and in family. And so what I'm saying is,
I just don't think, I think in the situation, I think when we talk about in totality, should men be providing for the whole community? I think that is definitely a criteria and a quality that men should have. I don't think you should ever want kids to go. There's never a time that I brought one kid food and I didn't buy them all food. That's just not how I live. But the reality of the situation is, when I look at this situation and the way it was handled, I don't think he came there with malicious intent. He was confused. Like, send him out. Like, had you handled it a different way, right? Instead of trying to throw that man on the bus and make him seem like he was just this bad person, I think he would have stepped up in a different manner. I think
you're not going to get an argument out of me. I literally know that the way in which the whole situation was handled, going to the internet and all that, which I think is stupid shit anyway. People thinking that they go to the internet and somehow that's going to help fix their issue. It's not. So I understand that. I am saying, though, to
beat all the kids.
Because to your point, the dialogue that has come up is, I take care of mine. And I'm saying that.
But I don't think that's what nobody, I think most.
Oh no, there's people that saying.
I think most people are saying it's a kind gesture and he should do it and I would do it, but that man is really not obligated. And that's what everybody is saying. Is most people saying that they would bring food for the kid and this and that. But in reality, I saw
people say, fuck that. I don't have to do anything for nobody else's kids. And what I'm trying to say is that there needs to be more leaning towards, he should have fed the kids. Because what happens is that when we provide that opening for mine, and we give life to that, it starts to be like a cancer in our community. And I'm suggesting that more of our men, I appreciate, again, Fathers Alive in the Hood, for putting that statement on their page to say, if you can't, maybe you can't buy McDonald's for everybody, then you bring a few groceries. Not even just for her, they was being funny, but for her and her man. That's going too far. But I'm just saying, the point is, as a man, we need to set the message in the community and in the world that if your child is part of a community of kids that you already knew also, that were there before your child.
But I don't think that's just as a man. I think that's everybody.
Well, I know my son. Guess what? Here's the deal. It is everybody. But there's very rare but wait a minute. There's very rare circumstances where a man has children that he has in his house, all his children by his different baby mamas or by his 2 baby mamas or whatever. And the mother has to come there to bring something. Usually, probably 99% of the time, it's the other way around. She's the vessel who brings forth the children. They live with her. And so it is a man, right, that is coming to take care of his child. So I'm saying that. I'm just saying it's very rare. Yeah, everybody. This is a universal conversation. And it's not just about these children in this house. when you go to school. You don't bring your child pizza. You bring all the kids pizza, right? You don't come with one cupcake for your child for the birthday party. You bring all the children cupcakes. You go over to cousin's house and they spending the night and you bring in something for your kid. What did your mother do? I know when I was a kid, when I had to go stay over my auntie's house while they went to the event, so they did whatever. Sorry. Or at the babysitters, when I was going to the babysitter, my mother, when she was like, let me give you some apple slices, she said, oh, and how many kids Miss Pat got down there? Let me cut up some more apple slices to make sure everybody can get some.
Yeah, this is true.
So that's my point. But anyway, we should get into our next guest because this is going to be a long ass show. So we're bringing up the sister of Brittney Griner. This week we held a prayer vigil in Brittney's honor that included rabbis, it included non-denominational folks, it included white folks, Black folks, brown folks, Asian folks, women, men. Everybody was there to support and to pray outside of the Russian consulate for our sister Brittney Griner. Trial starts today. Today's July 1st, but this show will obviously air afterwards. And we're praying for her mind. We know that the court has a 99% conviction rate, which means it's kangaroo court. You show up in court and they've already determined what's going to happen to you. But we hope she makes it in the 1%. So we're joined by a close friend, childhood friend, even they call one another sisters, Janell Roy, who heard from Brittney Griner on the same day that she was being detained at a Russian airport. Janell, thank you so much for joining Street Politicians today. We had an opportunity to be with you this week. Such a beautiful person, and we just are glad that you're able to be with us, but sorry that it's under such difficult circumstances.
I just appreciate y'all. You know, it's such amazing to stand with such powerful people who have our support, who's showing love, you know, because it's hard to bring people out, right? It's hard to get people to understand what's happening and what's going on, especially when it's not their loved ones. Some people don't understand that when it's not their family and it's not their daughter, their nieces, their nephews, people don't understand the impact that it has on people's lives and family and their livelihood and, you know, their mental state. And, you know, like we was just talking about it earlier, you sit here and you think about how you have to listen and look at things in the media and find out so much through the media that nobody ever tells you. Just a little while ago, you know, during the war, they just got hit with 2 different missiles that killed approximately, I believe, about 27 people. I don't know, of course, the whole statistics behind it, but I know that people were impacted, people were injured, and people were dying because of it. You know, and you don't know how far away that is from my sister's jail. Is she okay? Is she impacted? Was she affected? Was any of that thing, you know, was any of that happening? And people don't understand the impact of those things because it's not them. So many people are so quick to judge and have their opinions about things, you know. So for y'all to stand behind my family and the support, it's been amazing. I couldn't ask for anything other. Y'all have been a blessing to us.
Well, it's, you know, unfortunately, we have to be a blessing, right? It's unfortunate that we have to meet such beautiful people like yourself with the level of energy like yourself in situations like this. You know, I know today is the first day of the trial, you know, and I know that it has to be a lot on the family and yourself. Like, what emotions are you having right now based on this trial?
It's a little bit of a struggle, right? Because you literally are sitting and you're watching the anticipation of, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to get said. It's different when you're in the United States, and when you're on American soil, you have the phone calls, right? You have the contacts and you have the connections to where you're like, yo, is this happening? What's going on? What's the next step? But the unfortunate lack of communication that we've had, we have to sit in front of a TV and you have to sit almost feeling numb of, I have to pray for the best and hope that, you know, the worst has already happened. So you're just sitting in front of a TV screen, pretty much watching like everybody else. And unfortunately, sometimes, it's like people are like, are you good? Do you know anything? It's sad to say that that's my own sister, my best friend. And I tell people, like, no, I don't know nothing. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to watch the TV like you do. So it's news to all of us at the same time.
So let me be clear. No one has had any communication with Brittney since she's been locked up.
No, we
Not-
pretty much.
Not verbal, but she did write a few letters when they allowed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was gonna say yes. The letters they have allowed. So we have talked to her through the letters, but through the verbal, of course, like with my sister-in-law situation, the ball was dropped, unfortunately, with the phone call. So she wasn't allowed to make that phone call, and that's such the difference, right? On American soil, you're allowed to make the phone calls, so you can at least talk to the person to understand, because I mean, it is what it is, right? But you can talk to somebody if you know somebody long enough to say, hey, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And you can almost, you can tell through their voice and the emotions of how that person is doing. And sometimes that's all it takes is just a phone call to even make a person feel some type of humane to say, all right, there is life outside of this.
So can you tell us what happened with the phone call? Like what happened with the phone call that she was supposed to make?
So for me, it was my sister's anniversary. And pretty much what happened was, and this is obviously, it wasn't to me, so I'm responding on behalf of my sister-in-law. But when I spoke to her, she kind of, she broke down. She had a breakdown moment, which of course, as she should, respectfully. And that's why I wanted to call her to make sure that she was good. So pretty much what happened was they scheduled a phone call at least a week in advance, maybe a couple of days approximately. And what happened was a phone call was supposed to come in for their anniversary. They scheduled the phone call on a Saturday, which it was supposed to be already scheduled. It should have been somebody there at the U.S. Embassy. So what happened was the Russians came in and they allowed my sister to make 11 calls. They actually brought her in, where they have to bring her from the jail to where the call is about an hour to 2 hours approximately. So they have to travel with her all the way there to make the phone call. She made the phone call that morning, several that morning, several that afternoon. The number that was given to my sister to make was a Monday through Friday phone call, pretty much, at the United States Embassy. They didn't give her a phone call that was a 24-hour line or a weekend line for unknown reasons. I don't know why or how the ball got dropped on that side. But they came back and the attorney said, hey, listen, they showed my sister-in-law, they showed Sherelle the call log, and they said, hey, BG was able to make the call. So Sherelle sat that Saturday, like literally waiting on the phone call to happen at 10, 11 o'clock, and just sat by her phone the entire time. And she's like, hey, I haven't gotten a phone call. Like, I thought we scheduled this days ago. Where's the phone call not coming in? And the attorney said, listen, she's already called you. She's called you 11 times. And Sherelle's like, how has she called me 11 times? I've gotten nothing. So the communication started coming in, and they pretty much said that on our side, there was nobody working. Nobody was working that Saturday. We don't know why. That really hasn't been answered to my sister-in-law as to why the ball got dropped or why they even allowed her to schedule a call on a Saturday and give them a Monday through Friday phone number. So pretty much nobody answered because there was nobody working.
Yeah, and this is 4 months later that they have not had a verbal conversation. And, and I agree with you with what you said, that letters are important, but a phone call helps people to really feel like they are, able to hear a familiar sound, right? Soothing. Writing letters only feels like solitary confinement. I mean, that is, that's how it feels. I'm not saying that that's her condition. I'm just saying it feels like because in solitary confinement, all you can do is basically write some letters. And what we know is that there is no law, because I went to look it up. I went to see whether or not Russia has like a rule or a law in place that says they have to allow of letters to be written. They actually don't. So,
Right.
you know, whatever the attorneys are doing and the negotiations that's happening, at least to the extent that it is, you know, to this extent, it's working, that they would even allow her to be in communication where she can write letters, you know,
Right.
to her wife. And so I have to say, you know, that's a good thing. So now
Yes.
you let's go back to the day that Brittney was arrested, because she was in communication with you throughout different times, maybe on the flight from the US, and you know, so she
Yes.
was talking to you. So tell us about those messages and what happened at the end.
So we were in communication, and we even FaceTimed each other for a little bit. She had went to go see her wife. She had came in because, of course, my sister plays for the Russian league um, um, out there or whatever. So when I remember when she called, she goes, "Hey sis, what's good? I just want to give you a call. I'm getting ready to fly back." I knew she had went to go see Sherelle. So she was coming back. Of course, she was, you know, flying around and stuff like that. Left Phoenix, went to New York, and I had FaceTimed her in New York. And I was like, "Yo, I love you. Have a good flight." Because that's typically the long flights where I don't talk to her for like 12, 13 hours. And sometimes me being a big sister, right? I'm like, "Yo, you have to call me. You have to text me. Get Wi-Fi." I'm like, "Yo, I'll pay for Wi-Fi for the for the plane. Like, you got to get Wi-Fi so I can text you." I remember waking up that morning, and it was 8:26, February 17th. She texted me to let me know that she was in a little bit of trouble. She goes, "Hey, I didn't get a text you as soon as I landed. I called Sherelle, but I'm probably, you know, some stuff happened at TSA. I can't say much. Some stuff happened at TSA. I love you." So my heart kind of went down. I'm like, it's 8:26. What's happening? We did stay in communication. I'm assuming for what they allowed her to keep her phone, because she was allowed to text me a little bit. But I know between me, her agent, and her wife, we were all, between us three, she told me that she was in constant communication with all of us. So she just sporadically would text and say, "Hey, I love you." And I'm like, "Where are you at? Have you landed?" I'm like, "Do I need to come fly to you?" I even asked her one of the text messages. I said, "Yo, I'll buy a flight right now. I don't care the price. I will come help you. Or I'll come, you know, talk to you or sit with you or whatever." And she goes, "No, I'm already in Russia and I'm at the police station now." She was like, "I still can't say much." But mind you, our conversations were so spread out. So they were like maybe an hour in between. So my text messages, I'm still like, "Sister, you okay? Sister, you okay?" And I'm just getting no response. So when she sends me a little response, I'm getting hope. I'm like, okay, my sister's not in that much trouble because she still has her phone. And then between 8:26 and 1:55 was the last text message I got. And that's when she pretty much was like, "Sis, I love you." And I'm like, "What happened?" And that was what I said. I'm like, "What happened?" 30 minutes after that, I asked her, I'm like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Sis, where are you at?" And then that's pretty much when I got the last thing. And she pretty much told me that she loved me. And that broke me, right? Because the next phone call that I got was the attorneys and Sherelle calling me. And Sherelle's like, "Hey, they took BG's phone for good." And I'm like, I'm talking to Sherelle on the phone. I'm like, "What do you mean they took her phone for good?" They was like, "She was detained. Now they've officially arrested her." So from that time at, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning to about 3 o'clock our time, of course, is when the entire situation took place. And then after Sherelle called me and was like, "She's not going to text you anymore."
You know,
And
you know the crazy part about this for me, right? Is like BG is arguably one of the best basketball players in the world. And both of these countries have utilized that skill set, right? They've benefited from it. You know, she's played in the USA team, she's played in the Russian league, and both of these teams have utilized that. And for them not to see the necessity in allowing this woman to be free, especially in this moment, in this situation, you know, and to handle it as if she was somebody that they both benefited from, it's really just disheartening to me. It's really disheartening that Black women have to deal with these things. I just feel like even in the league, even just the outcry is not loud enough for me. You know, if, you know, she's one of the best players in the WNBA, and if one of the best players in the NBA, this would happen to, it would be a far louder cry there would be way more people speaking up on behalf, not just sporadically. There would be an organized attempt to make something known. And the fact that that's not happened, it really bothers me. You know, how do you feel about that?
It just like you said, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth, right? It's disheartening. You know, my sister being an Olympic player, playing for the United States, and as women, right? My sister only goes overseas because of the salary.
Absolutely.
Right? She goes overseas because that is her income, that is her means of living, and that's how, you know, she has to maintain. Mm-hmm. You know, this is not, and as a previous ball player, I can speak on, you know, she's not going over there because she just enjoys it and that's what she wants to do. She's going over there because that is her livelihood, that is her career, and that's how she makes money. And unfortunately, you know, she doesn't make the same money like that here playing in the United States. So then what do you have to do? But it's also the passion and the love for the game. But for her as a human being, as a woman, you're playing for two countries who put you on this pedestal, but yet when something happens, is it reciprocated? Do we have your back the way that you've been having ours and the way that you representing our country? Because at the end of the day, as a basketball player, she's representing both countries. Mm-hmm. You know, she's representing when she goes overseas, and then she 100% represents while she's here with us on American soil. So, you know, disheartening is the perfect word for it, because you sit back and
I was going to say, we were talking about this already earlier in the show, talking about, I think is it like $20,000 or something like that is the salary?
Well, for women, they have a cap. It's approximately, I think they gave them a little bit of an increase, but I think for the women right now, the cap is like at 200.
Okay, so it's like 200, right? I'm sorry, I said the wrong number. I didn't mean to say 20,000. It's 200,000. Excuse me. So $200,000 is all you can make in the U.S. as a WNBA player.
Yes.
I mean, and the NBA players, some of them are making so much money they can't even count. It just, I mean, there's a disparity.
You got average basketball players, like average basketball players, make $5 and $6 million a year in the NBA.
Right.
Average.
And absolutely, and it's and it's no disrespect. It's no disrespect to anybody, you know, for the league goes. But there's people for the NBA who sit on the bench, you know, that's 13th man that probably won't play, you know, for another 3 or 4 seasons, and they getting paid millions of dollars. You know, and it's funny because me and my sister, a couple of months ago, obviously before she got arrested, we actually had the conversation we were laughing about. And I'm like, yo, you still thinking about going to the NBA? I'm like, yo, you should just do it. Like, go to the NBA at least 1 year, right? Because a couple of years ago, you know, when she first got in the league, they were talking about, you know, she'll be the first woman in the NBA. Like, we'll pick her up. And I'm like, yo, at this point, I'm like, you should have just did it. Like, you should have just did it, made it an accolade, you know, and then now you think about it and you like, if she was in the NBA, would this still make a difference? You know?
I mean, the salary cap thing is a political issue, right? It's a political issue. I had a conversation yesterday with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, where we were talking about, you know, she's obviously been very supportive of BG as well. She held a demonstration in Texas and has also pushing the administration, making sure the State Department doesn't forget about Brittney. And so she's doing that work. And she and I were speaking about this whole situation yesterday. And a part of it, again, comes back to the fact that Brittney even had to go to Russia in the first place. And as you said, it's an economic situation. And therefore, we have to talk about in the midst of all of this. And I can't wait until Brittney is free so she can come home and be a part of the discussion about how there is the pay gap disparity that we speak about all the time in other industries is right before our faces, right here in sports, that you have two different leagues, if you will, but both of them make major money for other people. See, I want to speak for white folks, but I don't want to get y'all, you know, you in a situation and have Sherelle upset with me. But the truth of that is, no, for real, because the owners of these teams, for the most part, I know there's a few here and there, but if you know, in basketball, the owners of these teams, they're a bunch of white people, and they're making millions and billions of dollars utilizing Black and brown bodies largely, knowing that people have to fly back and forth, to your point. And I want to know, where are the owners, right? Forget about the players. We put so much responsibility, which I still feel Carmelo, LeBron, and all these guys. I'm getting ready. I thought to myself last night, I need to call Kyrie, because Kyrie is he's our friend, right? And we need to call him and ask him and make sure that he feels engaged, because some people don't know what they should do or not to do. They don't know.
Right.
Yeah. But so I want to call him because I know that he will support. But that's a lot of pressure on players who are already
without a doubt
on issue. The people that we need to be challenging is, where are the owners of these different teams? And what is your position on this? Because you're the one that has the power to make the phone calls. You might have a Russian friend you play golf with at your country club who flies back and doing business in the US. Perhaps you should call that person and see if they have a direct line to be able to contact the folks over in Russia. People need to go to work on this. And I keep hearing this thing. Someone said to me the other day, a very powerful Black woman said to me, well, they are working on it. It's just that they can't tell you anything. Okay, maybe that's true. But all I know is I now have done some research on the Trevor Reed situation. And yes, it was a longer time and it was all of that. I get it. But it was very clear that there was work being done to try to negotiate on his behalf. There are stories out there where there's more being said than just in priority. No, they're getting into the details of how they're working on it. All of this is, I don't understand why not for Brittney Griner. I don't.
You know, and I agree with you. That's the same thing that me and my sister-in-law was just talking about. And she discussed it the other day when she had an interview with CNN. Where's the action being shown? You know, there's a complete difference of, we can continue to talk about something every day, right? But when you show me something on paper, when you show me something in hand, it makes a big difference. It's just like the phone call, right? Writing and talking. Well, you can talk or do. Those are the two things. And that's why we said, you know, that's always the biggest push for us, is that's the only thing that we're asking for. Are you showing me something, or are you just telling me what I want to hear? Well, especially as women, we go through so much every day that we have to battle a man's world, right? Sometimes. So if you show me something and say, hey, this is what we're doing, or this is what we're working on, okay, respect, we get it. Now, okay, I see where this is going. I see that we're moving in a forward direction, but it's like, especially as a woman, it's almost like you telling me what I want to hear so I can shut up and sit down.
Well, I mean, I've had the opportunity to speak with Sherelle on a number of occasions, and this is a very poised woman who, I'm surprised that, well, no, I'm not, because Black women are just what we are, Black people. And I'm not going to just, because Black men also have to just deal with extreme circumstances all the time and still show up and still speak, well and present well and try to keep everybody else calm and all of that, right? Because I called her lit, like, what? Who? What? And she's like, and so she's unable to share every little bit of what she's pieced together, because this is a very sensitive issue. But I can tell, and she has said to me very clearly, I don't have a lot of faith. I don't have a lot of faith that people are working as hard for my wife as they should be. And I think that, I don't think, if I'm President Biden and I'm getting my briefing, right? And I'm Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, and we're getting a briefing, and Brittney Griner comes up. Knowing these two individuals and being around them for many years, it's compassion there. I'm sure they're like, this is horrible. What do we do? But I also know that when the politics get in the room, when all the other individuals come in and they're like, yeah, but we dealing with the war, and we got this going on, and we this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 it can push further their action to match their compassion. And that's why we, as the citizens of this country, have to be vocal, so that they will say, oh, that's right, I forgot. We can't forget Brittney. You know, we can't forget Brittney. Sorry, my son, I'm just running my mouth, but
No, you're
I'm very
100%
passionate about this situation.
Yeah.
right.
You know, no, and I was gonna say, you know, you hit the nail on the head with that. And that's the biggest thing for us and my family is I don't want my sister to be forgotten for everything that she has done for this country, for these teams, for both countries. You know, she's won multiple championships also with the Russian team. You know, and that's the biggest thing for us is we don't want my sister to be forgotten under no circumstance.
You're right, and I don't think it's even humane for her to be forgotten. I think, you know, this situation requires all hands on deck. You know, I just, it really bothers me that we hear that something is supposedly be going on and nobody knows what it is, right? Nobody knows what a negotiation looks like, what anything, and for the first time, her family, her wife, her friends are only gonna learn actually what happened really is going on just watching the trial. Right? This is the only way that we are being informed. And I think, you know, there needs to be more steps. I think, you know, from the beginning, the strategy that everybody had for me was just wrong. You know, I understood to a certain degree, but I think that not making it seem like this was a priority and then allowing it to continuously get to this place. Now I've heard now that regardless of whatever is going on, there's another 6 months at least that she has to wait to come home, or if that's even gonna happen. So I'm just so confused, you know.
Yeah, so
what they'll say, I'm sorry, look, we took over the interview. And then we're talking to each other. But they'll say that we're into the process and that negotiations, especially in a high tension situation, because obviously we cannot. First of all, we do know we're very brilliant people who have been able to organize lots of things. We read, we understand. So we do know that when there's a war happening, it makes it more politically complicated to be able to negotiate someone. Brittney, she is in this situation at the wrong time. We all understand that. We get that.
Yeah.
What they will say is that the negotiations that's happening, especially in light of the tension, it creates a situation where they can't talk about any of it. Our administration, any administration, they have a bully pulpit, right? Where they can keep the people in the people's interests. They can speak about, at least say her name. Have you ever even heard President Biden or Vice President Harris in any situation say, we also, you know, are thinking of our sister Brittney Griner? Have you seen, I'm asking you, have you seen anything, any letters written or anything?
So I personally have not. And I know my sister-in-law, from what we've discussed and what we've talked about here and there, I know she's probably had one person that reached out to her from the administration side, but it was more so towards her to say, hey, we're going to help you, or we're going to try to work with you. I don't remember exactly who that was, but I believe from what my sister-in-law told me, that was the only phone call that she had received from them since. And that was, I believe, in the very beginning when it first got pushed out, that she was arrested in Russia. Because if you remember, for us, we had already knew that there was some type of situation that was going on before it had actually got exposed in the media. So we were already trying to come together, obviously, as a family, to try to figure out, okay, what's the next steps? And that's kind of when that one phone call came through. But other than that, I believe, I know on my behalf, on my sister-in-law's behalf, we talk very frequently, she hasn't told me anything of that nature. Everything that we've pretty much been told and exposed to has been through the attorneys from both parties, from both administrations.
And see, that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying that some type of public nod, right? I get it. They're working, they're meeting behind the scenes, but we know them. We know how politicians operate. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. That's just the way it is. And another thing is, a Black woman, you can pay me money. There's no amount of money. You couldn't give me $1 billion right now to believe that people are waking up every day, going hard for Brittney like they would for LeBron.
Hey, now you be speaking too much of the truth on that, right? And that's why I said, unfortunately, it's just the way that our society is right now, right? But that's why we just spoke about it a little while ago. I said, I don't want my sister to be forgotten, because we're pushed so much in the back burner that, you know, for society, she's not, let's not say, oh, she's not that important to deal with. But I guarantee you, anybody else that meant something to them, or somebody that was such this huge athlete or this huge person,
Right.
oh, it would have never been forgotten. It would have never been pushed off the table. We would have been discussing this every single day. It would have been a political rapport. But because it's just my sister and it's just a woman and it's just this, it becomes so minute that people don't take it of as importance. But yet she's done so much for the country.
I think for me, like what I want to see, and you know, it's not calling anybody out. It's not to, you know, to throw anybody under the bus, but I would love to see the superstars of the NBA and all the superstars of the WNBA come together collectively and make a statement to talk to the administration and say that you know, we've given our lives for this country. We've given blood, sweat, and tears for this country.
Yes.
We've won medals for this country. We've done everything for this country, and we want you to treat Brittney Griner like she did that. We want on behalf of us that we're making a united front as a voice and stand up and speak to the administration, the president, and everybody to make it known that, listen, we want Brittney Griner home.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
Brittney Griner home. We want you to do whatever is necessary to make sure that Brittney Griner comes home. She shouldn't be no political pawn. She shouldn't be caught in between of this. Brittney Griner should be home at whatever cost it takes for her to come home. And I would just love to see that, because that would show me, because we had a conversation yesterday about protecting Black women and Black men and all these things. And for me, that's what it looks like. It means having an uncomfortable situation, saying things that might not make you favorable to the higher ups or whatever it is, because you know it's the right thing to do.
And I agree with you. And, you know, you make a good point, right? Much love to everything that the NBA has done for my sister, because I know during the playoffs and stuff like that, they did, you know, they put my sister's initials in 42 and stuff like that. And, you know, you had a lot of the big NBA players. You had like CP went out and, you know, wore my sister's shirt, and, you know, they had the Black shirts on that says, you know, we are BG. And much love to that and the support. And, you know, it's definitely appreciated, you know, but, you know, like we were saying before, it almost is like, where do you put people in the position that if it was your brother, if it was your sister, how much would you actually do? Right. How much would you actually do?
And it is your sister. And that's what I want us to see. I want us to realize that this is our sister. This is not somebody this is one of us. This is somebody that we celebrate the accolades. We look and we love everything that she, so you have to celebrate her when it's not favorable, right? You got to be able to promote, you got to do the things that it takes in uncomfortable times to fight for people. So it's definitely our sister.
And I think that's hard for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like to be pushed out of their comfort zone, right? A lot of people are like, oh, okay, I don't know what to say. But if it was your sister, your brother, what would you say at that point? Would you sit back and allow something like that to happen, especially somebody so close to you?
Because it could have been you. Because a lot of these players go overseas and they play in Russia and they do all these things. So it could have been you, and it could be you next time. Any situation, this could be you. So you want to be proactive. Not say, we say this work that we do, we see this all the time. There are mothers who grieve and who lose their child to police violence, to just regular violence. And what we say is, unfortunately, you become a part of this club. And there are a lot of active mothers who, based on the reality that something happened to their children, they were forced into being in this life. And what we say all the time, don't wait until it's your child to be vocal, right? Don't wait till it's your child to be on the front lines and standing up, because that's not what it's going to take to prevent it, right? We want to be in front of it. We want to make sure that it doesn't happen to somebody else. So we need you to make sure that before something happens to your child, to be in the proactive mode. And that's what I'm saying right now. They got to be proactive.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. We're always reactive. And, you know, and then that's when you have to stand, and you have families that is like, yo, this is happening to me now. I can't believe this is me. But guess what? You could have done something about it. You could have done something to prevent that.
You fight in preparation,
yeah,
right? And hopefully as a preventative measure. And I think that in this situation, and I know, you know, we have to end this interview. We could sit here and talk all night.
yeah.
But I think in this situation, again, while I want to see the same thing you said, my son, I hadn't even thought about that all the players coming together physically getting together and making a statement for Brittney. I think that would be extremely powerful. I think it's something we need to suggest. I think it's something that can be orchestrated by individuals who have influence and power. And I think they have to take it seriously, that it can't, if the playoffs was, when was that? That was just, it was a month ago.
Like, a couple, yeah.
So there's a refresher needed now, right? It's a refresher. We can't let people forget. We need the influence of these big names. But what I will say is, again, we still need to lean in on those people who have power and resources within.
That's it.
That's what will force them to do it, Tamika.
Resources.
When they see their top players are saying, "Hey, we need this to get done." Like, we not comfortable, we not okay.
Well,
is there still a Russian NBA player? Isn't there a guy who's super tall that's from Russia?
Pretty sure, yeah. I don't know his last name, but I believe so. Because I think as far as athletes, I just seen the other day, I seen Roy Jones actually reached out to some people that he knew in Russia. I was like, yo, Roy Jones just came out of the blue, right? That's amazing. That's powerful. So much love and appreciated. But he actually, I know I heard that he reached out to some people in Russia that he knew to try to help out.
Yeah.
So that's what we need. Action. We need action. And sometimes it takes us, the agitators, you know, we get on everybody's nerves because we always got something to say, and we always talk about who needs to do what. And people probably say, well, shut up. Like, why y'all always want? But this is our job, and it doesn't get us liked, and nobody's going to invite us to sit courtside at the games as a result of what we're saying. But we sacrifice that, and it's okay. It's okay, because somebody's got to push the envelope, and that's what we're here to do. We've made that commitment to Sherelle, to you, and you know, without speaking to Brittney, we're making that commitment to her that we're not going to let a week go by where she's not talked about, where there's not some action. When we did our prayer vigil the other day, there's several media stories now about a prayer vigil that took place outside of the Russian consulate. And that was the goal. Right. And we didn't go to the Russian consulate with the protest and, you know, the yelling and the things that we do, the chanting, if you will. We do that. We definitely do that. We do that well. But instead, we went there with an interfaith group of clergy. So it was not just, you know, the black preachers, which in and of itself is power. It was not. There was a rabbi there. There were non-denominational folks there. There were white people who prayed, black people, brown people, and we all came together to pray, not just for Brittney, not just even for your family, but to pray for the minds and hearts of those individuals who have the power on the Russian side, that we're praying for you to move your spirit as well. And as Bishop Daughtry, 90 years old, still showing up, and he came out for Brittney Griner. What he said in his prayer was so powerful. He said, do the compassionate thing. Do the right thing, lead with love. And that's what we hope happens for Brittney Griner. But I promise you one thing about it, and my son knows it. When I decide that I'm going to get involved in something, I will not shut up. I'm going to annoy you at least. At least, if nothing else, I will annoy you until the point where you feel like you got to do something because I'm annoying. And that's okay. So thank you, Janell.
Listen, that's powerful. Thank you. I appreciate your support so much, you know, especially with us being able to talk and getting to stand with y'all. It's been powerful for me. You know, it's uplifting when you have such powerful people and strong people that you know that we're all in it for the same thing. There's no games, there's no gimmicks behind it. We're all in it for the right thing. So I appreciate
you, man. We're here for you.
I appreciate y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
first of all, Janell and Sherelle, very, very kind, beautiful Black women. You could tell these folks, their whole life, everything about what they know has been disrupted, by this situation. You have Sherelle, who is working on passing the bar. You have Janell, who's taking care of her 2 babies. I mean, these folks are like going along with their regular life with their sister and wife, who is a superstar traveling the world, and then boom, this happens. And you find out so much about the system. You can't get information, phone calls need to happen on certain days. There's so much. And when you think about it, because of the fact that they are, or that Brittney is a public figure, we're getting to see it and it's playing out in real time. But imagine how many people just right here in the USA are dealing with similar circumstances of being locked up, not knowing when they're going to court, not understanding how to navigate in the system, listening to lawyers, trying to talk to your loved ones. It's really, incarceration is tough. It is very tough. And I know, but my heart goes out because I can't imagine what it's like to have your loved one. Because like I said, the US is rough. So imagine you all the way in Russia.
Yeah, it has to be. I've been in prison with people who are Russians, right? Who actually were locked up in Russia. And they say that prison in America is 100 times better than being in Russia, right? So, and I can tell just by the energy, just the way that they discipline things are just different, and especially when you're not in the life of crime, when you're not somebody who's been around that, you've been a star athlete your whole life and you've done things the right way. And then unfortunately you find yourself in a situation that puts you in one of the most dramatic and drastic situations ever you can even imagine, so the level of trauma that she's dealing with is just unimaginable, man. I'm just hoping that it gets fixed. My prayers go out to her wife and Janell. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting or speaking to Janell, but just Janell's energy alone is just beautiful, man. Just knowing, knowing that she had these type of people around her, just that gives you a understanding of who she is.
Yeah, that's
she
true.
has to, and just I love her as a basketball player. Love her spirit. Everything about her is just dope. So my prayers definitely go out, and I'm hoping that she get a speedy return, man.
One thing that we didn't get to discuss with Janell, and I wish she was still here. She said that they're concerned about who they will get back once Brittney is returned. Who they will get back, because mentally, we already know, we always talk about what incarceration does to the mind. Imagine what it does to you in Russia, again, unable to communicate with your family. We don't know what she'll be like when she returns. And that is something that I hope that all the parties involved takes into consideration, that we do not want this thing that has happened to damage this woman for the rest of her life. It's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And I don't think we as activists, organizers, leaders can allow our brethren who we love and we celebrate, but those individuals who play for the NBA, we can't allow them off the hook with this. We have to make sure that they get uncomfortable and that they are just as annoying as I talked about. And we got to stay on them. So from my perspective, I've already decided I'm going to be DMing on a daily basis. I'm DMing, texting, calling. We need help. We need help. And I know what happens is that their agents are going to tell them, oh no, we heard it's being worked on. It's being worked on. But very similar to what Congresswoman Lee said to me on yesterday, that Trevor Reed's family, they were in the street. They were on the phone. They were making it uncomfortable for the administration so that the administration would make themselves uncomfortable and get the work done. We've not seen, I asked Attorney Crump about it the other day. I said, hey, what do you really think the strategy is on Griner? Do you think that we should be out here, and how loud do you think we should be out? And I do ask people, you may not think so, but I ask
every now and then.
I do. And he said that he's never seen a situation where in this country, the silent ones got anything. Those who cry. And, he reminded me of that quote where Frederick Douglass says, power conceives nothing without a demand.
And that pretty much grinds that up, man. No pun intended.
Grinds it up, right?
Yeah, but shouts out to Janell for coming on our show, and just the love that she has for her and her wife has for her is just different. And that brings me to my I don't get it, right? I actually posted something on my page today from Jazzy, Watch Jazzy, and she was just talking about her willingness to be quote unquote submissive. And I know it's like a negative connotation that's attached to it, but it was so profound in the way that she broke down what submissive was to her and how it brought her joy, right? And she was just explaining how catering to her man and doing all these things for her man made her happy. It brought her levels of joy. And what I didn't get was why that bothered somebody else, right? Because how I love somebody or how somebody loves whatever that goes on with somebody in their relationship, I don't understand why that would bother other people, right? Because if I get joy from loving my woman or this and that a certain way, or I go to the movies, I like to watch the movies every day. And this is what I do. This is my happy place. Why would it bother somebody else? Why are people triggered by what makes somebody else happy? And people are like, oh, she shouldn't do. Why shouldn't? If this is what brings her joy, I think what people miss in it, when I listened to it, was the fact that she did it for her, right? It wasn't, I'm doing it for him and he's using me and this and that. It's like and I used the example about a man who might spoil his woman and buy her a bunch of stuff, right? If you're buying that woman things because you want sex from her, or you want to make her feel a way about you that she doesn't already feel, or if you're not doing it genuinely because, I thought about her and this would be nice for her. I want to take her here because I enjoy her company and I want to spend time with her. If you're doing things because you're trying to do it for somebody else, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And I think that the way that she spoke about love, it was more pertaining to what made her. She said, my superpower is love. And she made a quote that was so dope to me. She said, I can love a man back to health, right? And that for me is so dynamic, right? Because in relationships, people say it's give and take. Sometimes it is give and take. But in relationships, sometimes it might be 80-20. Some people might be able to provide 80 to somebody else's 20 that makes 100. Some people might provide 30 to somebody else's 70 and it makes 100, but that's the dynamic for those individuals. So what I don't get is why people are triggered by what makes somebody else happy.
So do you think that 70-30 consistently is okay?
If it's the dynamic for a relationship, what I'm trying to say is,
No, I'm asking you, do you believe that at some point that 70-30 flips, or they do have moments of 50-50? Do you think that it's okay for a person to give 70 all the time and the other person only gives 30 or 80-20? I'm asking you, I'm not asking you if
I'm going to answer the question.
Do you believe that it's okay? Like if you as a man, right, and you're giving all the time, right? Because in my last relationship, I didn't have the financial means to do the things that he was able to do for me. He put me on private jets. He bought me diamonds, things that I could not afford to do for him. So that would be an 80-20 shit. At some point, it might be a 90-10, right? Because I didn't have that money. I couldn't, if I wanted to go out to eat lobster every night, he could afford that. But if it was just me by myself, I couldn't afford that. So that would be a 90-10 that's consistent. But what I did do was found out what his favorite meal was and made sure that I cooked it. What I did do was find out, like, what things does he need? How do I change the socks in the drawer every 6 months? Because this is a person that works out and I know that he needs that. What I did do was figure out how does he like his Sunday to be, right? I made sure his newspapers got delivered. I made sure that on certain days he had the desserts and things that he liked. I kept myself together physically. I did not run around lying, cheating, and being abusive and doing things to him that hurt him, right? So that was my 90 back. And I think what triggers people, which they shouldn't be, they should not be triggered in any way, shape, or form by somebody else's situation, because I'm not triggered by it at all. But what I will say is the triggering that's coming up for most people is, one, they've never learned how to love the way that she speaks. They never learned that, right? That's just not their situation. But the other piece I think that gets sort of left out is that a lot of people are triggered because they've never had anybody that deserved to be loved in that way. That the word submissive.
That's what I'm trying to explain to you. And I think when I listened to it, right, it was her decision, right, to love that person. It wasn't.
But you're not hearing.
Listen to what I'm saying.
But I just need to be able to say this, because I don't see the part. I know, but I'm asking for the opportunity today to cut you off, even though we can do way better. Doing way better. But I don't know, because I didn't listen to the full interview, if she ever talks about her expectations, right? What I'm saying to you is that the way that the man that I was with showed his love for me, right? Was and it's not just buying things. He also was an experienced person. Wake up on a Saturday morning, let's do this today, right? This is the type of person that he was. If I kept a nasty house, cheated and lied all the time, didn't do anything back to show him that he was special, and I don't believe that he still would have continued to do this just because this is the type of person he is. I think that in every situation, it's give and take. You bring out of people a feeling that they want to keep going hard for you. You can't beat people down or mistreat them or be nothing and then have the same expectation of them to keep showing up. I would love to hear that part of the discussion from her. If she would,
but I don't. The thing is, what I'm trying to say is, right. And I hear what you're saying, and I think I see why you feel like women are triggered by the situation. But what I'm explaining to you is, right, when you lead a certain way, right, like it's like this. I got a friend. My friend never gave me nothing. He can't give me nothing, right? Boom, I know he's hungry. Yo, come to my house. I feed you, I take care of you, I do all the shit for you. Boom. I don't expect you to be able to do anything for me, right? I'm literally doing this because I see you as my friend. I don't know how you see me. I don't even know if you're able to give me back the love that I can give. But my superpower is that I love a certain way. And if I if I made a decision that you're my friend, you're gonna get this love. And if you do shit that fucks it up, listen to what I'm saying. You can't keep cutting me off because we can't have a conversation that way, right? So what I'm trying to say is, as my friend, you gonna get this love. And the minute that I feel like you don't deserve it, I'm not gonna be angry. I'm not none of this. I'm able to separate myself from the situation and move on because I didn't do anything for you. I didn't be me. I'm not being me for you. I'm being me for me, right? I'm gonna be the same friend to anybody that I call a friend. Now, if you If you fuck that up, that's on you. It don't reflect me. I'm not stupid because I did shit that made me feel comfortable that I do for friends in my friendship. So what I'm trying to say is, women, oh, but what is he doing? It don't matter. Whatever he doing for me, if I call him my friend and I'm still doing it, it's enough for me. Right? He might not be doing shit. He might just make a phone call every day and check up on me. Yo, you good, my nigga? I just called. That's all he might be doing. And that might be enough for me to give him everything that I want to give, because that's what I require from him in my relationship. And
but I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
So that's all I'm saying.
Because I show up in all my friendships and relationships a certain way, as a very giving person, right? I'm always trying to help people figure things out. I'm always trying to set people up in the best situation possible based upon my my access and whatever. So I don't disagree with you, and I don't change, right? I remain the same, but I do understand people who are triggered, and I understand family members of mine that will come to me and be like, you need to be careful. Like, you give so much, you know, who gives to you? Are you sure that you are invested in somebody that is invested in you? And I do have a criteria for being able to measure when I'm doing more than I should be.
And that but it shouldn't bother somebody else being bothered by you being happy, or looking at a situation that you happy in and telling you that you shouldn't be happy in. That is the most weirdest shit in the world to me. It really doesn't make sense. It is
either weirdest.
Nah, it's no. I want to say it this way. It is the most weird. It is the most weirdest shit in the world. Like, what you eat don't make me shit. It's people in relation. It's just like when you look at Will and Jada, people want to tear those people down. Their relationship has outlasted most of the people who talking about their relationship. In any relationship they had, 28 years. And if people was mad, oh, she's toxic, he's this, he should. Why? That man don't think that about his woman. That man, he love her dirty drawers. And because it don't fit the criteria for what you call a relationship, you think that you should be angry about the fact that he loves this woman and they love each other how they love each other. And to me, I think that right there is just what is detrimental in society, that people are so worried about other people and how they feel about what they're doing. I don't give a damn about what somebody thinks about what I'm doing. It don't matter to me, you know? And it's just like, for me, is listening to that woman. She seemed like she was in joy, talking about whatever she was talking about. She looked like she was lighting up. She was happy. This is my superpower. And why would somebody want to criticize that or make her feel like she was wrong for loving how she loves? And that's just weird to me. But, you know, I don't get it. Maybe somebody else will get it. And that's that. But with that said, you know, I'm not going to always be right. Tamika Mary's not going to always be wrong. And we're going to debate our ass off because we both think we're right. But we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
Peace. Listen to Street Politicians on the Black Effect Network on iHeartRadio.
And catch us every single Wednesday for the video version of Street Politicians on iWomen.tv.